Hey everybody, welcome to week 2 of Groups at Home as we have been navigating this conversation around friendship in a series called The Gospel of Friendship. You and I are both, we are all collectively hungry for friendship. In a lonely and isolated world, we're desperate for connection with God and with one another. Today, and this past Sunday, we navigated the topic and the idea that vulnerability marks healthy friendships. Have you ever run into a person, an individual, maybe somebody you saw on a show or listened to a podcast, and you were struck, drawn to, attracted to their vulnerability, their ability to be open, real, raw, honest, transparent? We're drawn to people like that. We're drawn to, whether we like it or not, sometimes people who wear their heart on their sleeve, so we never have to guess where they stand. We're drawn to vulnerability. And yet, I think you and I struggle with invulnerability a lot, don't we? Do you struggle with being real, raw, open, honest? I mean, the definition of vulnerable is to expose oneself or to be exposed to physical or emotional attack. So I get why we struggle with vulnerability. We don't want to be hurt. And many of us, tragically, have been hurt in a relationship, whether through verbal abuse or emotional attack or feeling judged or criticized. So these invulnerabilities, these walls build up around us. But it is really difficult to grow deep friendships, to grow deep connections with God and with one another when invulnerabilities are present, when the walls are up. We need vulnerability. We need to practice the art of being vulnerable with one another. And it's important to find safe places to be vulnerable. We talked about the woman in Mark chapter 5 who had been struggling with, very vulnerably, struggling with a problem with blood for over 12 years. And we get this scene in Mark chapter 5 where she's standing in the corner, isolated, cut off in the shadows, probably protecting herself from judgment or scrutiny from others. But Jesus walks through town and something happens, it changes in her. She thinks, if I can push through this crowd of judgment, if I can push through this crowd of criticism, if I can push through this crowd, if I can push through all of my invulnerabilities to reach out and just touch Jesus' cloak, maybe I'll find hope. Maybe I'll find healing. Maybe I'll find connection and friendship with God and maybe with others. And she does just that. She chases down Jesus, pushes through the crowd, and immediately she's healed. Her physical body changes. And do you remember what Jesus says? I don't think he sees this moment happen, but he feels that power has come out of him. And he stops in the middle of the crowd and he says, "Who touched me?" And he won't let it go. You kind of like, I'm going to find out who touched me. And he's scouring through the crowd and her heart starts to race. Why is Jesus looking for the one who was healed? Is it so that he could brag? Is it so that he could boast? No, he was looking for the one who was healed so that they could be seen, so that they could be known. And there's this verse that says, trembling, she comes to Jesus and she tells him the entire truth. She chooses to be vulnerable in front of the crowd before Jesus. Why? Because Jesus was a safe person and a safe place to be vulnerable. She chooses to be known, her pain, her struggle, her story, her physical ailments, maybe her hang-ups, her faith, her wrestling, her doubt. She chooses to tell Jesus the entire truth. And something happens. She discovers hope and healing. She's reconnected with friends and loved ones. She can go back to worship. She's reconnected with God. All through the gift that Jesus gave her of being vulnerable, of being honest, of telling the truth. What stands in the way of that for you? Maybe it's an accusational tone, or maybe it's the fear of rejection, or maybe it's a past embarrassment or past shame. But how could you get to a place, maybe even today, tonight, in whatever setting you're sitting in watching this video, where you could be vulnerable with a friend, or maybe vulnerable in prayer? As we preached through this at Slow City Church, we talked about the reality that we grow vulnerable friendships by choosing honesty, by asking for help, by giving grace to one another, and by praying wholeheartedly. And I just want to encourage us, no matter what our past relationships are, or no matter what our past hurt is, what if God in this season wants to introduce you to a friendship in your group or in your circle that was real, that was raw? What if tonight you had real, raw, open, honest conversations? What if we began to be people who were comfortable asking other people for help and being a person that was comfortable being asked of help, or being asked, what am I trying to say? Being asked for help too. What if we were people who helped one another and grew deepening connections and friendships with one another? What would happen in you? I'll wrap up with this. I love two quotes. Brennan Manning says, "It is better to be naked in truth than clothed in a fantasy." It's better to be naked in truth than clothed, than living your life posturing and hiding and masking. What ways have you postured? What ways have you hid? And I love the quote from John Ortberg that says, "Never worry alone." There are so many times that worry and anxiety can spiral out of control, and I have to choose to never worry alone, to bring my worries before others, my worries and anxieties and my fears before God. We are better together. We're better when we're vulnerable. We're better when we give grace. And may this little conversation spur on great conversation and vulnerability for you with God and with others. Bless you.